Hey everyone, welcome to the Brownstone. You are listening to Numbers Don't Lie. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle, and you're learning to get out your feelings so you can make the best decisions for yourself, your family, and your business. Now, this month is February, the month of love. So, all month, you're going to be listening to Numbers Don't Lie, Love Edition. I hope you like it. Right? I liked it. There's a little razzle dazzle I put on that. So today's show, we're going to be talking about unconditional love, parenting when it's difficult. Now, I like to think I was a good child. Like I made good grades, you know what I'm saying? I was respectful for the most part. But if my mom was here, not to say it'd be a totally different story, but she would probably share some times when it wasn't as easy. That might have been because she was a single parent and always tired. She worked and had to raise two girls by herself. She took a night job. So, if you know anybody that works at night, they're always tired. It doesn't matter if they got tons of sleep, they're always tired. So it could have been that, or it could have been, some of our decisions were just terrible. You know how teenagers are. We really were not that smart. I talked about that on episode 1. So if you missed episode 1, you go back and listen to it. We really weren't that smart back then. In our minds, we were. We just thought we knew it all. But child, we was a little bit stupid. I'm sorry. That's probably harsh, but we were not that bright. I'll say that. We just didn't know enough about the world, and the decisions we made were based on our limited understanding about the world. Either way, my experience was my experience. And my mom, I think she would agree, but parenting is not always easy. There are highs and there are lows. So if you're listening and you're a parent, you want to be a parent, I encourage you to lean in because this show is going to be very eye opening, very insightful. And I want you to really get something from it. Remember, this is Numbers Don't Lie. So we're going to be, talking about our usual stuff, but it does have a bend towards parents. And today's guest, I'm really excited to introduce her. She is a stepmom mentor. Now, that may be new to you, but to all the stepmoms and dads out there, I'm pretty sure you could think of a time or two or 10 where you thought, well, you wanted to have someone like her to help guide you along the way when things got really difficult. If you follow her on social media, you'll see her posting about high conflict bio moms. She has a fantastic social media page. Okay. So by the end of the show, I need you to go follow her, go look at her content because she is laying it out, some different scenarios that you might experience. You might relate to it if you are a step parent. So y'all ready? All right. I'm gonna bring her on. Let's welcome Dr. Ness.
Hi. Thank you so much, Dr. Michelle, for that wonderful intro. Yes, I am a stepmom mentor. I have been a stepmom or bonus mom. I use both of those terms interchangeably. Some women prefer bonus mom, some women prefer stepmom. But what I have found in my experience is that um, when women refer to themselves as bonus mom, it's a different mindset than the women that refer to themselves as stepmom, right? So if you don't see your situation as being a bonus, or you don't see yourself as being the bonus in the situation, it's kind of hard to consider yourself a bonus mom. So some women prefer the term stepmom. And I mean, not one is better than the other. They're just two terms for the same role within the family. So yeah, I've had over a decade of experience in that. Yes, I've been doing this for a long time. A
First of all,
very
you look very young. So you say you've been doing anything for a decade as like an adult?
Yes, ma'am.
Child.
Um, okay, let me tell you. So I don't know if I'm supposed to get into it just yet, but
Go ahead, get
I
into it.
I got into this position as a mentor, right? So when I met my husband, I was already a mother of two children of my own. And so when I met him and he said he had a daughter, I was like, perfect. This is gonna be so great. Like, and our children are very close in age. So my two oldest biological children are only 14 months apart.
Okay.
And so my bonus daughter, my stepdaughter, is 13 days younger than my daughter. So they are
Wow. So
very
they're like
close.
triplets.
Seriously. So I was under the impression, or I thought that everything was going to be so smooth, right? Like it's just going to be one big happy family. We're always going to be happy. And then I was in for a rude awakening
Wow.
very early on. And at the time, I didn't have anybody to turn to. I didn't have any relatives. I didn't have any friends. I didn't know where to turn to. And so I had to learn so many lessons the hard way. And then through the years, I acquired friends that are also in this role. And they're like, oh my God, like you make it look so easy. Like, what are you doing? But it's not easy. I don't want to give anybody that impression that it is easy, because it's not, right? It's a journey. But people were asking. And so I was like mentoring unofficially. And then people were like, you got this gotta be your thing. Like this is you. Like you know what you're talking about. You make it so relatable. You're honest, right? And so that's how I got into this role of being a stepmom mentor. It was just through a lot of trial and error, through connecting with other bonus moms or stepmoms, and just expanding, I guess. But
Wow.
yeah, so I thought it was gonna be a walk in the park when I realized they were all, within a year of each other, like same
Mhm.
age. And it wasn't. It
And they're
wasn't.
all girls, right?
No. So
Well, I mean,
I
like
have
the three that's close in age.
nope, my son,
Oh, okay.
and then my daughter, and then my bonus daughter.
Okay,
So
okay.
yeah. But yeah, so we have a 17-year-old, two 16-year-old girls, and a soon to be 2-year old.
Oh, wow. That's a gap. I think you said something really powerful, because a lot of people, when they hear I'm a data scientist and I
Yes.
say I have this show and I invite people on, they think it's about to be super technical. And I'm like, no, it's really not a technical show at all, but it
Right.
really is helping people understand that data is everywhere. Information is everywhere, and it doesn't
Mhm.
matter what scenario it's in, whether it is in like accounting, your business, and your budget. There's information even when we talk about love and situations. And so something you said kind of sparked, like you said, I thought it was going to be, just this happy fairy tale, like, oh, we're blending our families, it's going to be so great. And I think I want to make sure I understand. You said I didn't like you didn't know any. Did you know anyone that were blending a family at the time?
No. Like no one in my immediate circle, no one in my immediate family, like none of my friends, like I had nobody to go to. So
Mm,
I was like, okay, well, I guess I made one, I don't want to say mistake. It was a hard lesson, right? And so
mm,
one of the hard lessons that I had to learn very early on was the way that I parent my children had to be different than how I approach my bonus daughter. And
mhm.
I didn't know that. So I tried to approach it as like everybody under this blanket, but no,
Yeah,
it didn't work out.
I could see that. So for those that are listening, I want to I want to kind of touch on something she said. Like she had no point of reference. There was no past data to help her inform her decisions. Because usually we have something like, okay, I've met a guy like you before. I've dated
Mhm,
someone like you before. I've been in a situation before. So you can kind of have scenarios in your mind of how it could go. But it
mhm,
was like she literally had nothing, and she had to go in blind. So I hope you caught that point. So if you're ever experiencing something new, you really don't have any past information to help you. And so she said something later, like she was able to connect people later. So if you're
mhm,
approaching a situation where you feel like there is nobody in your immediate circle, I encourage you to find someone like her, whether it's you being a blending your families or another endeavor of your life. If you
mhm,
ever feel by yourself, if you don't have any previous information to guide you, whether it's good or bad, because sometimes we know what not to do, I encourage you to find a community so you can take your steps more seamlessly, less
mhm.
conflict. Like you said, it was hard at first because you just didn't know. So I just want to make sure that point got across, because you're not the only one that's in something alone and the first one to blaze that trail, or at least we think we're the first person. We're not.
Right.
It's somebody else out there.
There is always somebody, but you're right. You have to be able to have a trusted source, and not
Mhm.
all information is accurate information, one, and not all information pertains to you, right? In the same way. So, I had, through connecting with other people, it was like, oh, you mean to tell me there's a community online, or you mean to tell me, and that's how my horizons were expanded, because I connected with the right people when it was meant for me to connect to them. But I encourage anybody that is on this journey of stepmotherhood or step parenthood to align yourself with a community, because no one gets you like somebody who's also going through it. No, our journeys are not the same, but there are some similarities in some of the situations that we experience on this journey.
Nice. So I want to ask you a couple of
Yeah.
questions. So the first one is, how important is it to understand your children's love language? And this is, any child in your house. How's it important to understand their love language?
Oh, that is super important. Let me tell you. So I am like I'm a Libra. If anybody is into that, I'm like super lovey dovey. Like I love everybody, want to hug everybody. That's just me. So my children, they grew up with me doing that, right? So when my bonus daughter came into the picture, she was not like that,
Mm.
right? And so I'm like, oh, okay, I try to give her a hug, and she, like a loose fish, she'll just kind of sit there. She didn't hug back. And I'm like, okay. And after a couple of times, I was like, fine, she doesn't want my loving. I'm not going to give her any loving. So I
Mm.
literally went from one extreme of just smothering her the way I don't want to say smother, but like showing that affection towards her, like I do with my other children, to none at all.
Mm.
And then that was those are two extremes, and that didn't give any better results, right? And so she was feeling like, well, she doesn't love me, she doesn't want me around, how come she doesn't hug me anymore, how come she doesn't say I love you, like, how. So she was looking like, oh, okay, she's only doing that for her biological children, and
Mm.
I'm over here in the corner not getting any of her love and any of her affection. So I had to find out where to meet her in the middle.
Yeah.
Like I had to find out where to meet her in the middle. And a lot of that comes from the other household. We don't have control over the other household. And that's something that I had to learn as well. As much as we want the best for the children all the time, we are only in control of our own environments. And so sometimes if they're in a different environment that doesn't openly express that type of affection, the child may not know how to respond when they get it. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had to learn, okay, she does like hugs, but maybe not 3 hugs a day. Or you know what I mean? you know, so I had to learn that love language. And same with my children. Like they just like to be like hugs and affirms. And I affirm my bonus daughter all the time too. And I had to find that balance. But initially it was like, oh, I'm gonna do what I do with my biological children. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna do the same thing for you, because that is one thing that a lot of people outside of the community suggest. So if you're not in a blended family, a lot of times people on the outside will say, well, just treat them like your own. But that doesn't always work, right? And so you have to do what's best for your family. And I had to find out, okay, my children, they grew up with this. They like the affection, but she likes it, but not on the same, not at the same amplitude or the same volume. So I had to just
Mm-hmm.
turn it down a notch. And so once I was able to find that, she was still feeling like she was loved. She was still feeling like she was getting attention. And, my children were missing any attention when I was giving it to her. So that is super important to know what your bonus child is comfortable with and what they are not comfortable with, but also keep in mind the other household or the other environment they are in. So it's not necessarily a rejection towards your affection. It could just be they're not used to that.
Mm-hmm. That's
So.
good. I want to pull out a point that she made. There's a couple of them, both you and your bonus daughter. Um, but it was just again, people think of like data sciences, they think like, oh, you do numbers, but you were literally taking in information and
Mhm.
making a decision. Like your brain is like, okay, I got this information. This is not working, shift. This is not working, shift. And so that's what we mean about getting out of your feelings, because at first it was just like, oh, she doesn't like my love. That was totally based off of emotion,
Mhm.
as opposed to understand. Because if you had the understanding before, you would know to shift immediately.
Mhm.
But it was, you had to learn that. So I hope you guys are hearing what she's saying. Is when she made that initial emotional decision, it didn't turn out well. It was just like, now I have to regroup to figure this thing out, because now she's feeling like I don't love her at all. So, but once she realized, her brain starts taking it in, making a decision, taking, like, it's just like you keep that trial and error, that iteration. That's what
Mhm.
it is. Once she
Yes.
got those iterations going of like, try this, try this, try this, and
Mhm.
now we found what works, that is so powerful, as opposed to just taking something, this is how I do it, and this is how I do it. This is how I give love, and this is how I give love. They take it or leave it. But her ability to adjust, and that's any relationship, whether it's your friendship, a spouse, someone
Mhm.
you're dating, a child, we really do have to be able to take in and understand them and then adjust, because it is very selfish of us to just say this is what you get, take it or leave it, because we won't want
Mhm.
anybody to do that to us.
That
So
is
I
so
really
true.
appreciate you pulling that point out. That was excellent.
Keeping it locked to KCCR Radio,
My station.
the Brownstone Center, and don't forget, no matter where you go, there we are.
Okay. Now this next one is, now granted, you can share as much as you want or
Okay.
two. Okay.
Okay.
So what strategies have you found to be most effective when it comes to resolving conflicts? And I would say between your the stepchildren as well as the bio mom. Like, if you have some tips, some strategies to give when faced with conflicts.
So you mean between all the children, or the parental figure and the child, or both? I mean, I can talk about
I would
both.
say between you and the bonus
Am
daughter, and then you and the bio mom.
You want to go there?
Listen, that's something you can share, is what you want to share. But I would say,
Okay, so
we want to try to keep it on a positive note. So,
absolutely,
if you want to share a story, I ain't gonna stop you. But make sure you hit them strategy, at least one strategy, so they know,
absolutely,
like,
absolutely,
oh, that's good.
absolutely.
Let me try that.
So if there's ever a conflict with my bonus daughter, I had to learn how she responds to me, right? Like, what does she respond to? She doesn't respond to yelling. I'm not a fan of physical discipline at all for any child. That's just not me. She doesn't respond to yelling. She doesn't respond to, like, when you're taking stuff away. So I had to figure that out, right? And so as far as, like, when she and I had conflict, we didn't really have conflict because she's very quiet, but sometimes she would give me a little attitude. Kids give attitude, and it's kind of like, like, I don't want to listen to you. I don't have to listen to you, kind of thing. It was kind of just meeting her where she was. So what did I say? Was there something that I said that upset you? It's all about communicating. Was it something I said that upset you? Was it something I did that upset you? What about this do you think is not, fair? I am open for dialogue. Like, I'm one of those people, like, we can talk it out. I don't always have to be right, right? But between the two of us, we are going to come to some kind of collaboration, some kind of agreement, so that we have an understanding that respect is mutual.
Mhm.
I will give you respect, you will give me respect. And I understand respect is earned. It's not always just given just because somebody is older than you,
That
right?
part.
Yeah, right. It's something that's earned. So I'm going to be honest with you. I expect you to be honest with me. So if I'm asking you a question about something, and you don't like it, or you disagree with it, we could talk about it, right? And then when you see my points and I see your points, we're going to come together, and we're going to figure it out. So communication is one. Mutual respect is another thing, I would say, as far as the conflict. And sometimes you do have to create boundaries with your
Mhm.
bonus kids, right? No one should be subjected to disrespect, right? Because
Mhm.
sometimes kids get away with things with one parent or one household. They can do this, and
Mhm.
then they come to the other household that has a different set of rules, and they think, well, at this house I can do that, so I'm going to carry that over here. But this household has this set of rules that need to be respected, and that household has its set of rules that need to be respected. And so sometimes you might have kids where, some parents or adults in their lives are okay with them shouting at, the kids shouting to the adult, or
Mm.
screaming when they don't get their way. Well, in this household,
You said nah.
yeah, in this household, that's not one of those things that we accept as acceptable behavior. We have higher expectations of you and for you, and it's only going to make you a better person in the
Mm.
long run. So that's not okay over here, and here is why. Right? So sometimes you have to set that boundary, and,
I
like,
like
these
that.
are the consequences of you if you cannot honor this boundary. These are the consequences. Okay, well, you're just going to be in that room screaming to yourself, right? And so when you're ready when you're ready to come back and talk to us, right? Like how we're speaking with you, then come back and join us. But for now, you're going to have this monologue in this area by yourself, because
Ooh.
we're not doing that. Now,
Hold on.
it's
Before you get into that, before you get into that, I got to leave them hanging a little bit, because I got to
okay.
remind them what
Okay.
they're listening to right now. You are currently
Okay.
listening to Numbers Don't Lie Love Edition with me, your host, Dr. Michelle, on KCCR The Brownstone. Remember, you can follow me I'm on social media. That's Facebook and Instagram at Mogul Beginnings. That's MOGUL, Mogul Beginnings. And also on brownstoneworldwide.com. Welcome home, y'all. Now, I also have something for y'all. So if you're a business owner out there, and you've been struggling to hit like that mid six figures and beyond, I have a solution for you. So I have a fire training coming up that's going to help you understand why you've been struggling, or even why you're going to have a hard time continuing to scale. I'm going to drop the information. I got the link right up here, but you can go to powerofyourdata.com/free training. That's powerofyourdata.com/free training. And I'm going to show you a little razzle dazzle. Now, remember, this show is Numbers Don't Lie. So, it's going to be related to that. Okay. Knowing your numbers is important. I just came back from a conference and they hammered that into us. And I was happy because, that's what I do. But it is so important. So I want you to hop on that free training, get everything you need so you can take your business to the next level. Now we're going to come right on back because Dr. Ness was about to tell us about the bio mom side. And I'm excited to hear it. So girl, go ahead.
So you'll often see me put HCBM on my, on Instagram or any of the posts I put up. And HCBM just stands for high conflict bio mom, right? So that just describes a person that has the tendency to choose conflict over collaboration, right? When it comes to things that have to do with the child. So in my situation, that is what I deal with, right? Right. And so if you are a woman and you are dealing with a high conflict bio mom in the mix, one thing I always want to say is do not waste your energy arguing. Do not. Because no matter what you say, no matter what you do, somebody that has that mentality is not coming down, right? You're not going to convince them to see it your way. So instead, I just say, if there's something that needs to be said, stick to the facts. Don't be emotional when you're
Y'all hear that?
That's what it is.
Get out your feelings. Go ahead. Because you said
yes. Do not be emotional. Don't get, amped up about, I can't believe. Don't do any of that. If you know what you're saying is the truth, stick to the facts of the situation. And that's that, because people cannot argue with the facts. Right. And so like whenever there's a situation that involves that, I give it a little bit of time, but not a lot of time. So that's another thing. I put a time boundary on that. Okay. It's like if there's issues that come up and my husband wants to talk to me about it, I say, okay, we are going to give this 2 minutes of our time. Say what you got to say. And I'll say what I got to say, but we need to fit it in there within 2 minutes. And at the end of that 2 minutes, what's the solution?
That's good.
Other than that, there's nothing else to talk about, right? Because I refuse to let that energy in this area, right? In my area. So we're going to talk about it. Say what you got to say. Do you have a solution? You don't have a solution? Well, we're not talking about it. Nothing else to talk about. So yeah, so, create a boundary with her if you need to, if you don't want to be communicated or contacted on social media, because sometimes they're really good for that, spamming the accounts. If you don't want that, you don't want them to call your house at 2:00 in the morning to, child, if you're not okay with your household being disrupted at 2 a.m. for nonsense that has absolutely nothing to do with anything, create a boundary for that, right? Just create a boundary with her if you need to. Don't argue and just stick with the facts. And I will say some of these high conflict bio moms, not all moms are high conflict. This is specific to the ones that are high conflict. So if you are dealing with one that is high conflict, sometimes it is important to document these things, because some of them will do, I don't know if I can get into it, but there was this one lady that, the high conflict bio mom actually slashed the tires, keyed the car. Yes. And then there was another one. Yeah. Listen to this. Now, this is just pure manipulation, because they do a lot of manipulating. But there was this one where the bio mom did not want the dad to have visitation. So what she did was she went to the court, filed a false protective order. So that stopped the visitation, right? And in the meantime, she's in the child's ear about why dad didn't pick them up from school, all this, that, and the other. And the child doesn't know any better. They're just saying, dad was supposed to pick me up. How come dad's not picking me up? And then, the child is getting fed or influenced with all of these things that are not necessarily true. And then in the end, when it comes down to it, the court says, yeah, absolutely not. None of this actually happened, right? Like, you could face criminal charges for what you did.
Mm.
But yeah, that's just one of the extreme examples of high conflict behavior. Just, just interferes with the relationship that the child could have with the dad if you have one parent that is just being manipulative, you know, and just putting stuff in the child's ear.
Wow.
Just for the sake of being high conflict.
Yeah, so now you got me extra curious because
Ooh.
I don't a lot of my friends, if they do, I don't have a lot of friends that have children.
Mm-hmm.
And so which means I don't have a lot of friends with blended families either.
Mm-hmm.
So how, for anyone that's listening right now, how would they know if they are the high conflict bio mom or bio dad? Like, what are some characteristics they can like self-assess to know?
So if they have that mentality where everyone is always wrong and they are always right, regardless of what the situation is, that's a characteristic of somebody that's high conflict. Somebody that is not able to accept accountability or responsibility for their own actions. The reason why I did that was because so and so said, or so and so did, or I'm the only reason why I'm going to go here is because so and so, right? So if they're not able to accept accountability, if they are always right in every situation, or if they're the type of people that anytime you give a solution, they counter it. Okay, so say there's an issue with a cell phone and you say, okay, right, you have a teenage bonus to all our, or we have teenage children. So you say, okay, well, I noticed that the child is up late at night on the cell phone. I think that an appropriate way to address this is to, one, communicate with the child our expectation that at a certain time the phones go off. And then you have somebody that's like, I don't like that idea, that's stupid.
Oh.
but doesn't offer a doesn't offer an alternative. It's kind of like, well, it doesn't matter what I say. You're probably just not going to agree just for the sake of not agreeing, right? So that's another characteristic of somebody that's high conflict. It doesn't matter what solution you give, they don't want to do it, and they don't have an alternative or another solution that they're willing to offer. Those are probably three telltale signs of somebody that is high conflict.
Well, that is you out there. I hope we're not attacking you.
No.
To be better. So thank you, Dr. Ness, for just giving
Absolutely.
us that rundown because you know, it's 2023. Like, we want to have great things happen in our lives, and it's really hard to have great things happen if you keep standing your own way and being the negative person.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
This was so good.
Yes.
We might have to have Dr. Ness back, y'all. It's some more stuff in there. I kind of want to hear some more stories. So we might have to have her back. I'm going to think of another way to work it in. But I want to thank all of you guys for hanging out with us. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Brownstone Worldwide, or visit brownstoneworldwide.com for articles that I've written on subjects like this. Remember, numbers don't lie, because they don't. And even though data isn't just numbers, because we heard Dr. Ness say today, like learning, ingesting different experiences and adjusting, that is still information. And if you use that to guide you as opposed to your feelings, it'll turn out 10 times better for you. Remember, you can follow me on social media at Mogul Beginnings. That's MOGUL, Mogul Beginnings, on Instagram and Facebook, as well as brownstoneworldwide.com. Dr. Ness, how can people find you?
Well, I am on Instagram at Coach Dr. Ness, like Coach Dr. Ness. I do have a Facebook. It's still Coach Dr. Ness, but I'm not really active on there just yet. But you can go ahead and follow that page. I do have a Twitter, Dr. Ness 1. But the best way to reach me is on my Instagram, because I am on there every day putting up content for our community. And again, that's Coach Dr. Ness on Instagram. And we have bonusmomsclub.com is the website. Excuse me. We have blogs up there. super helpful blogs. We put a blog up there every single day.
Nice.
We have our private community up there, right? You can join the wait list to get into our private community. It's a wonderful time up there.
And what's that website to get there?
bonusmomsclub.com.
Okay.
Yes, you'll see. I think we right when you type it into Google, bonusmomsclub.com. We're right there.
She's findable. So you know any other parents that need support in that area, please send them to bonusmomsclub.com or look her up on Instagram, Coach Dr. Ness. Is there underscores in there?
There are, but I don't know. Do you need to put them in there? So it's Coach_Dr_Ness, Ness.
Okay. I mean, I don't, just in case there's another Coach Dr. Ness out there.
Oh, there's not another.
They find you.
There's not another. And I'm telling you, my DMs are open. I have so many wonderful conversations in my DMs. It's not, it's not a robot, anything in the DMs. It's me. You're right. We have good conversations. People just come. They want to vent. They want to know my opinion on something. They want to know if I've experienced it. And my DMs are always open. And I enjoy and appreciate our conversations. The ladies know. Sometimes I get a couple fellas in there too. But for the most part, it's the ladies. Right? Well, it's awesome. The ladies. Yes.
So y'all can reach her. She's a real person.
Yes. It's me.
So thank you so much for spending time with us out there listening in Brownstone land. We really appreciate you listening to this conversation. We hope you're able to take something from it and apply it to your life. And you want to make sure you're back here next week because I have something special for you. I actually have another guests, plural. We're going to be talking about dating and relationships, okay? Because just because you're in love or trying to find love, it doesn't mean you just throw logic out the window. Like we've all done at some point in our life. So you want to make sure that you tune in to hear about that. Make sure you go visit us at Brownstone Worldwide, get more content, more articles on these topics. Because remember, numbers don't lie. So you're going to get your feelings so you can make the best decisions for yourself, your family, and your business. Until next time, I'm Dr. Michele.